Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Conversations with Annassa. So happy to see you this morning. Wow, welcome, everybody. So let's start with meditation. Take your attention inside, all the way down to where your energy field meets the earth. Breathe into that space and hold your attention in that space, in the space between the breaths. Drop your attention all the way down. And you'll feel your attention want to rise up. Just hold it in that space where your energy meets the dirt. Feel the energy accumulate in that space, and gradually it will gently rise to the tip of your tailbone. Allow your attention to go there. Breathe into that space and hold your attention there. When you're ready, gently allow the energy to rise to the point below your belly button. Breathe into that energy center and hold your attention there. When you're ready, allow the energy to rise up to the solar plexus. Feel into the center of your body, behind the solar plexus, which is right where your rib cage has the V. Right under that is your solar plexus. Breathe into that spot and hold your attention there. Gently allow your attention to rise to the center of your chest, into your heart. Breathe into that center. Hold your attention in the space between the breaths. Drop right into that stillness. When you're ready, gently allow your attention to rise to your throat chakra. Breathe into it and drop your attention into the stillness between the breaths in that energy center. When you're ready, gently allow your attention to rise to your third eye, slightly above, behind, and between your eyebrows, in the center of your head. Breathe into that space and hold your attention in the space between the breaths, in that energy center. When you're ready, allow your attention to rise to the top of your head. Feel the flower open, the 1,000-petaled lotus at the top of your head. Feel it open all the way around your head to receive pranic plasma. The most powerful healing energy in the multiverse is pranic plasma. It can heal every cell of our body. Allow it to rain down like a shower over your entire being, permeating your body itself and the biofield around it. When you're ready, gently take your attention to the point at the top of your aura. This point is where your fingertips would meet if you made a halo around your head. Take your attention to that point and hold it there in the space between each breath. When you're ready, allow yourself to become aware of the energy flowing up and down your central channel as it flows out the top of your head like a fountain. It goes straight up and then separates in 360 degrees around your body, making an egg shape that goes down and gathers again and comes up your central channel. Of course, it flows in both directions, so whichever one is easiest for you to feel is the one to pay attention to. In general, it's best to be aware of the energy flowing up the central channel and down the sides, simply because it tends to lift your spirits. When you feel complete, gently allow your attention to come back to the screen. And we'll start our program with questions and answers. We're so happy to see you all. How may we serve this morning?
I have a question about anger.
Mm-hmm.
So Friday evening, I spoke the harshest words I've spoken in years to a person. Details of what led up to it doesn't matter. Took a while to get there, but so there was anger. Um, um, the harsh words I regret, but the anger was there and needed to be expressed. Angry with myself for allowing myself to get angry, but still angry at the other person. So, how to deal with anger?
So the question is how to deal with anger. So it was a situation where there were two people speaking, and something about the interaction made you angry. And so you spoke angry words. And it was energy that needed to be expressed. Did the person need to feel and hear the anger?
I felt so. It
And what
took
was
days for me to get to that point.
your intention in expressing that anger? If if everything if the purpose of expressing the anger was letting them know, what was your bigger purpose with that anger? Was it to change their behavior? Change their idea? What were you what was your
Probably change their behavior, and also to just vent what had been building up for days. I needed to vent.
So the person says that the purpose of expressing the anger was to change the other person's behavior, but probably more important, to vent the intense energy that had risen up in him. Now, let's look at it a little bit. When people have been angry with you in the past and expressed their anger, did it change your behavior?
Sometimes, yes.
And what were the key factors that made that behavior change possible?
Allowing myself to hear what was being said.
Okay, so his response is that it did change his behavior in some circumstances because he was willing to hear what was being said by the other person in anger. So, do you think that in this situation, the other person was willing to hear what you said in anger?
No,
So, the answer is no. He didn't think the person was willing to hear. So, it was more of a tension release experience for you than something, an effective technique to change somebody's behavior.
but it didn't release the tension. It created more tension because I expressed anger and felt regret.
So, in the expression of the anger, he felt regret, knowing that it wouldn't change the person's behavior, but that this release had to happen. So, what we would say is that regret was a bit of self rejection because you didn't really want to express the anger, but you did. Is that is that too many words about it?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. You know,
Okay. So this is the downside of anger, is if we reject ourselves for expressing it. That's the downside, because you want to stay out of that place of self-rejection.
so the energy builds up. The angry energy builds up. How to how without expressing it, how how do you release that anger?
Well, the first thing you do is end the conversation. You say, I can't have this conversation anymore. We need to talk another time. Goodbye. And you get out of the conversation as fast as you can
That happened.
before you express the anger.
No, it was after. There was the person wanted to continue. You know, you get
Right.
into that
You get
role
into that
where
loop.
where you're
Yeah.
just
Bashing each other.
yeah, time stop. But
Good. So we would recommend that you do that before you express the anger. And there are two reasons. Let's make sure we're bringing you all up to date. So we're talking about expressing the anger and how to be effective with it. And so what we're saying is when you feel the anger, you feel the situation building with the other person, you don't want to explode on them, you say, I can't have this conversation right now. I'm going to talk to you another time, and you get off the phone. And the reason we suggest that is because there is powerful energy in this anger, and you would rather use it for your own growth than dump it on somebody else when you know beforehand that they aren't going to be able to hear it. So there's no benefit for anybody in that. So you try to have the presence of mind to say, I'm no longer comfortable in this conversation. Let's take it up at a different date. And you walk away. If you can possibly do that, that's good. Because then, and we'll talk you through it, then you are a steaming pile of energy, and you can sit down and work with that energy and breathe into it. Say Ho'oponopono. You can, from that perspective, be a little bit self-congratulatory because you didn't explode in a way that would make you reject yourself. You held on to the energy, you're holding it, and you are transforming it, transmuting it in yourself, using it for your higher growth. Does that make sense? So,
I did that for a week.
wow. Okay, so you really practiced with it. You did it. You did it. And it kept escalating.
There's no way to get away from it.
Did you try going to the Annassa temple to speak to the person's higher self?
No.
Did that occur to you at any point? Well, if you sit in it now, can you see something you could have said from your perspective to the person from the Annassa temple?
No. No desire.
That's no desire is very different from you can't see anything that could have been said.
So after the exchange, I did Ho'oponopono and a number of other things to ask him and myself for forgiveness. Um, at this point, I don't see a point in going to the Annassa temple because I don't see anything changing or any desire to change anything because I don't think it'll happen.
Well, so we're having this discussion about going to the Annassa temple, and when to go to the Annassa temple, if you can, is before the crisis point happens. And really consciously try to inform the person about a higher way to be. Or really sit with what you feel and try to express that to the person in a way that it doesn't matter whether you think it can be taken in or not. It doesn't matter what you expect the outcome to be. And of course, almost always when we go to the Annassa temple about a relationship that's not working, our expectations are failure because the relationship has failed in every communication dimension that we have in physical reality. And so that's why we go to the Annassa temple, because it's an intractable situation. There's nothing we can say or do that is going to have any impact in this dimension. So we let go of this dimension and we go inside ourselves and think of what is the highest possible outcome that could happen. And we feel into that, knowing full well that the person on the other side is not at all interested in creating that outcome, that they don't live from that place and they have no resonance with it. They're not interested in it. But we do it anyway because, largely because we don't have anything else we can do. It's our tool, is we go to a higher level of the problem, because you can never address the problem in the same dimension in which you feel it. Dimension is maybe not the right word here. You can't address the problem in the same frequency that it is resonating. You have to go to a much higher frequency. And from that higher frequency, you imagine the ultimate possibility that is that this person could be exposed to love in some way, and that might filter down and create some change at some point in their life that may have absolutely nothing to do with you or this time and place, but you're trying to serve the whole. So you take yourself completely out of the situation and you imagine the highest that you can for yourself and this person and how you could reestablish flow. And from that perspective, from your highest self, you create a statement that you go to the Annassa temple and you say. And in this process, both you and your vision have to change, right? You have to pull yourself out of the situation and actually get into the highest best yourself to be able to create that statement and go to the Annassa temple and deliver it. Does that make any sense to you? And how does it feel to contemplate that?
Softens me.
And if you think back to the situation before you unloaded, what could you, would you have considered saying in the Annassa temple? And you don't have to answer. And at any point, if it feels too personal, don't go there. It's okay.
Well, right now, I just would wish the person a little love and compassion.
How about a lot? So he'd wish the person love and compassion. Yeah. And how about yourself? How about including yourself in that equation?
I could use it. Yes.
But do you notice that hesitation? You are very willing to leave yourself out of that equation like you don't deserve it. We challenge that viewpoint. That viewpoint doesn't help you. We love you. That's why we're saying it. So, in the hot moments, first, try to get yourself out of the situation so you can reorganize. He did that. He did that numerous times. It still kept escalating. And sometimes, sometimes people need to feel your anger. And sometimes it makes a change. Most of the time, it's ineffective. Most of the time, when we dump poison on people, they just feel poisoned and that ends the relationship for now. That's usually what happens. Because that's, we're dumping our poison, hoping that that will make them stay away. That's one of our feedback mechanisms to let people know they're not welcome in our environment. So then it's still a good idea to go to the Annassa temple and do cleanup. It's like dirty dishes. We just have to go do cleanup on ourselves, the other person, dissipate all the energy, really give everything to the highest best, and start over to reconstitute ourselves, all that energy, and get our flow going. We love this question. Everybody has this experience. Everybody. And we're completely grateful to have the opportunity to explore it. Thank you. Any more questions? How may we serve further? Yes.
So when we have the awareness of the pranic plasma coming down, that's always occurring. But we come to a state of having awareness of it. Could you?
So the question is about pranic plasma. Is it always occurring? And when should we be aware of it? And the truth is, it is always available to us. Pranic plasma is always available to us. All we have to do is tune in and allow ourselves to be under a shower of pranic plasma so that what happens is when we're not paying attention, we're not taking it in. And so often it will hit a shield and just bounce off because we're not available to it. And so what we do is we invite pranic plasma. And you can do this anytime. You can do this as you're drifting off to sleep. Invite the pranic plasma to be showering you with love all night as you sleep. Try it. We will be very interested to see how it works for you. Pranic plasma is always available, as is the Annassa temple. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
So you can set yourself to receive the highest best. Very often our self-talk is about anything but. Usually we're talking to ourselves about what we don't want to happen instead of what we do want to happen. And this is the part of the problem because what we manifest has everything to do with what we are telling ourselves. And if we're telling ourselves about everything we don't have and everything we don't want to happen and everything that we really wish wasn't happening and all of these endless loops that we're taught by our matrix of belief, that this is where our attention has to be, that if we resist something strong enough, it won't happen. The truth is, if we put enough energy into anything, it will happen. And where our attention and our energy goes is what we are building for our life. So if we are constantly thinking about what we don't want, or what we are afraid might happen, or what we think could happen that we somehow need to protect ourselves from, we are actually energizing that which we wish to not happen, because that's where our attention and our energy is. So it's very important that we dismantle our fears and allow ourselves to receive love, that we dismantle our blaming of those who did whatever to us, that we hold responsible for whatever it is that we think is wrong in this moment. It's very important for us to dismantle that and instead be focusing on how much we love our life, how we're going to express that love in the world, how much love is around us in the people we interact with, and how we can create more of that. Because what we think about, what we feel about, what we concentrate on is what we are telling the universe we want more of. How may we serve further? Yes.
Can you share chronic plasma with another person, child, or pet?
So the question is, can you share pranic plasma with another person, child, or pet? Well, this is what, every sort of energetic healing modality is about, really, is that you feel the love inside yourself because you have just received an enormous shower of pranic plasma that doesn't stop. And so you open yourself and you become a channel for that pranic plasma. And that love, those adamantine particles come through you and they go wherever you want to direct them. That's the essence of all energetic healing, really. And we are connected to those we love by our attention. So where we put our attention is everything in what we manifest, where we live in ourselves, and how the people around us behave. Now, that doesn't mean that people don't ever get mad at me and everybody else in this room. It does happen. We still receive whatever we receive from others. We don't control that. The only thing we can have any potential of control over is ourselves. And so we can, with practice, learn to control what we give out. We are receivers and we are transmitters. And what we have control over is what we are transmitting. And so, first of all, to know that we're transmitting with every thought and feeling and expression that we have, whether we say it out loud or not, we are transmitting it. And it's hard to be responsible for all those various thoughts that go through us during the day. And a lot of them have no meaning and fortunately no power. But when we start to invest our attention and our energy in repeated thought patterns, that and many of our repeated thought patterns are things that we've had since our inception, that we think are uncontrollable, and we assume that they are correct and factual because they've always been there. They're a part of our structure. And it's these hidden parts of our structure that we assume are not mutable that keep us continuing in patterns that don't serve us. And this is why it's important to actually question our matrix of belief on a regular basis, so that we're actually thinking about these deeply constructed fears and assumptions about the way life is, that people are doing things to us, that external factors are doing things to us to make us a certain way. It's important that we regularly examine these and see if they're really true. Because it is our matrix of belief that determines what these foundational thoughts are that we are giving a lot of energy to without even knowing it, just by making assumptions that whatever we think is true actually is true. So that's why we encourage question your inner authorities to see if they're really the appropriate authorities that we would choose to be running our foundational assumptions. How may we serve further? Did that answer the question in any way?
Let's see if they.
Okay.
share that. Yes.
Okay, good. Good. Thank you.
So my follow-up is sending love and holding the higher space, can that transcend something that's a truly clinical condition? Like if somebody has a clinical behavior and it's the behavior that's the challenge, it's not just a momentary, they're being upset.
Okay, so the question is, if somebody has a clinical situation, a clinical behavior, does holding space for them, sending them love, make any difference? And the answer is, of course. A clinical condition is just, a behavior pattern that has a label on it. Clinical condition. Sociopath. We'll take a sociopath just because that's a little bit extreme. So we all,
Probably not far from the truth.
we probably all know a sociopath. And the truth is, the only thing that's going to help is to go to the Annassa temple and completely pour love onto this person, inviting them to make a change. You just pour it on as much as you can possibly make available for that person. And this is what compassion is. And compassion is where we end up when we understand that we're full of anger, we're full of all kinds of negativity, and we have been given tools to begin to identify these things and change ourselves from the inside. And for whatever reason, the person that we are interacting with doesn't have these tools yet. So what we're doing is we're watering them the way we would a seed that hasn't had a chance to sprout yet. We're just pouring water on that seed in hopes that some life can be born into that structure that hasn't received the tools that are necessary for inner change and growth. And so we wish them the absolute highest, as we wish ourselves and these parts of ourselves that this person represents, we wish those well too. So whenever we are loving someone, we are loving that part of ourselves that identifies with that someone at the same time. And in this way, we are healing the whole, because there are parts of us that we can't see. You know, the reactive parts of us, for the most part, at certain parts of our practice, you know, things let go at different rates of speed in us at different times, and it has much to do with the events around us and the astrology, what's being lit up in this particular moment. And so we express gratitude for every loving thought, feeling, and experience that we get to have. And we express compassion for every being that doesn't have those experiences. And the most effective place to express those is the Annassa temple, where we are completely protected and everything becomes in the highest best, because that's the field that it's resonating from. And so in going there, we have the opportunity to experience that ourselves and to share it with others. That's why we go there. We love these questions today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. How may we serve further? Yes, Suzanne. Okay.
Okay, I'm muted.
Yes.
I'm also very
Oh, I
interested.
just lost you. Not hearing you.
Hmm,
Hold
it
on.
says mute. Now I should be
Yes.
unmuted. You
You're
there?
good.
All right, good. I liked the question about the plasma because I was just getting ready to ask something. I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, especially the possibility. I mean, I understand there is a possibility of sharing that with a member of the family or someone where a loved pet is not well. Could we just? I'd like to hear a little more about that.
So it's best if you want to use pranic plasma for healing. The question is about healing with pranic plasma. It's best to do it from the Annassa temple, because that's a very controlled space. So you go to the Annassa temple with the intention of loving another.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter who, or it can be any other. And so you go there, you experience the pranic plasma yourself, that you are surrounded by it, that it is flowing through you in a shower of love. And you express your desire to share that. And then you invite the other person, the other being, to the temple, and you share the pranic plasma with them. You make the shower bigger. And you wait with that person until you see that they're full.
Mm.
And you You then allow them to go. There may be an important step in there, and that is once they have come, you can ask them if they are willing to receive pranic plasma.
Ah,
And so you can ask. It's always important to give a person an opportunity to say no to something. Although the highest self, and you are inviting the highest self, will always want to receive love. It's a way of checking that you're in your highest self and you have actually invited the highest self. But when you can feel the pranic plasma in yourself, then you know you're there, it's happening, and you can share it. But it's important to practice in the Annassa temple.
right.
We hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. More? How may we serve further? Andrew? Brenda, anything?
So Wally, he can unmute himself if you like.
Yes, Wally. Go ahead and unmute yourself. Good.
I was wondering if I could use the Annassa temple also to connect with, interact with higher beings.
So the question is, can you use the Annassa temple to connect and interact with higher beings? The answer is absolutely yes. You can connect with any being you wish. There is no Annassa is about sharing. We'll just say that. And love is an unlimited resource with unlimited capacity for differentiation. So inviting, but what we'll say is this. It's very important to be responsible for your life on the earth. And so the most effective way to use the Annassa temple is to get information, or to both to receive for yourself information about your own growth, and to receive and transmit the highest for others. It can get very confusing to spend too much time cultivating energies from other dimensions, because what's important is fulfilling our life here on earth, fulfilling our karma, becoming a receiver and a transmitter of the highest possible frequencies here to uplift ourselves and everybody else. So it can become a big distraction to cultivate energies from other dimensions or fields, unless you're doing it to promote the highest. In you and everybody else. So what we're saying is it's important to be invested in your life here. And in cultivating the highest, you will naturally be you will naturally know when to leave the Annassa temple, when to be there and when to not be there. So our primary intention is lifting ourselves and everybody else up. And our feedback is our physical life experience. Knowing that we have little control over that, we only have control over our own transmission as much as we can, as aware as we become of our own selves and patterns, and the deeper our own work is in releasing those patterns, so that we become more and more an expression of love itself. And so our feedback is the field of awareness, the people we attract, the experiences we have. And it's a great learning field. We hope that answers your question. Yes.
We have a question from Margaret, who says it's okay to tell you it's her. I have a question, wondering if you would speak to the aspects and astrology of the recent full moon. Felt extremely potent.
Well, full moon energy is so potent that even hospitals recognize that when there's a full moon, people's behavior changes because a lot more of them end up there in all kinds of states. The full moon energy is very, very, very powerful. As far as speaking directly to this past full moon, we're not going to say just because we don't feel complete enough in our understanding of Rebecca's studies to give you a full answer. And that has to do with her insecurity about a little information being dangerous and being in that position of not really knowing how to keep from doing harm with the power of the information. So please stay tuned to this channel. That will change over time, but for now, that's the party line because it's the truth. You know, when you are learning a modality that has power, like understanding the planetary movements and their impact on human behavior, it's important to be conscious of how that information is transmitted and being used so that you don't inform people in a wrong way about these things, because there's enormous power to it. And when we put our power behind that power, then it becomes even more powerful. And so we're just going to be cautious with this topic. So we appreciate the question, and it is a good question, but we're going to hold off on the answer because there's too much in process to give you what would be a complete answer in this moment. But we will say full moons are very powerful. They definitely have effects, and it's a good time to be self-contained in a full moon. If you can. Sometimes they're just experiences that demand our attention and there's nothing we can do. And so we do the best we can, which is what being human is about. We just do the best we can, and then we notice what worked and what didn't. We pick ourselves up, give ourselves a hug, dust ourselves off, and go back to work. And just keep doing the best we can, because that's what we are, that's what we have, and understand that most of our learning is through failure. And that failure is just learning. It's not something to punish ourselves for, ever, ever. It's learning. We'll do better next time. And it's our experience that, you know, failure is the best tool there is for learning, because then you know what doesn't work, or that something was only partially understood. That's a lot of it is that. Or that we have more work to do someplace that, you know, we might have been a little bit blind to before. And so mastery only comes from repeated failure. Like repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated. We try not to do the same thing twice, but sometimes it takes a couple of 3 times. There are areas of us that are faster than other areas, and that's okay. That's being human. None of us comes into this world completely balanced and aware and conscious. And, we may be that for a few minutes until somebody smacks us on the butt. And then it's like, whoa, what was that? And that's the beginning. Yes.
The more adept we become to receiving higher forms of energy, is there a way we should become aware of identifying or protecting ourselves from bad actors?
So the question is, as we receive higher and higher frequencies, as we become more and more love, how do we protect ourselves? And the truth is that love doesn't need protection. Love just is. Love just is. And so this idea that love requires a defensive posture is itself a misunderstanding. Love is complete in itself. And the more we become love, the more love we attract. At the same time, everyone in this life dies in some way. And so when we have the idea of protection, it's always about protecting ourselves from death. There is no protection from death. It will come when it's time for it to come. There is peace in being able to know and accept that date was chosen long ago. We participated in that choice. And nobody escapes it. There is the possibility of being at peace with it in certain ways. The physiological experience of death would rock us off our center. In certain parts of that physiologic experience, if we know that going into it, then we don't have to be surprised when we get afraid. We can say, okay, physical fear is part of the physiological process of crossing from this body being the source of our awareness and our awareness of awareness itself being our identity. So we go through an identity change when we die. Very similar. It's the exact same process that happens when we're born. We are awareness itself with no container, complete unbounded awareness. And suddenly we're in a body. And we don't know it for a while. Takes a while. First the eyes won't focus, and first they're shut. They don't even open for a while. Then when they do open, everything's a blur because you don't know how to focus your eyes. You don't even know that that's something you would want to do. You don't know you have a body, you hit yourself, you scratch yourself, you move in ways that don't make any sense because you don't even know that this is you. It takes time to get that. Well, the same thing happens, when we become pure awareness. We change from one form to another. And so there will be moments where there's fear, but then when we know to expect it, it's okay. We can allow, okay, fear is here. And what we want to cultivate in that time is excited anticipation. We can view the fear as excited anticipation of this transition. We've been through many, many deaths and rebirths as a human being, where we still maintained our physical structure, but it may be that almost everything about us changed. We've all been through that. It happens when someone close to us dies. It happens when we have a great shock, or usually it has to do with loss. Sometimes it has to do with something being given. So, but there's no harm in feeling into the reality of the fact that nobody gets out if you're alive.
Follow up.
Mm-hmm.
So is it safe to trust that all the energy we receive as we engage in our practice is pure of heart?
Absolutely. Because what's impure will show itself to us over time. What's impure is the matrix of belief that we have yet to engage and dismantle. And it's important to realize that the major, we see life, we experience life from our own perspective. And so what we see is how we are. We interpret everything based on our own matrix of belief. And so it's always our matrix of belief that is our reference point for introducing any kind of change within us. Because whatever we see is our own matrix of belief. And so it's important to kind of think about what that means in terms of self-awareness. Because often it means, for example, if we don't like someone, what we don't like about them are things that we don't like about ourselves that we haven't been able to change. That's not always true, but it's true enough of the time that it's really worth looking at.
So as we're about 14 minutes to close here, there was a request or a suggestion for our closing meditation that we visit the Annassa temple, and in this meditation to send love to all, if that feels right.
Well, let's do it like this. We're going to do the Annassa meditation that we did a week ago, where we all receive love. We all receive love and adamantine particles. And in that receiving, we can allow that to go through us to all the lives that our lives touch. How about that? So take your attention inside. And bring yourself back to the meditation we left off, where we were aware of the energy in our central channel. We could feel the energy rising up and coming out the top of our head. And like a fountain spreading in 360 degrees around us, just expressing itself up and out in 360 degrees, gathering and coming up the base of our spine through our central channel. As we become aware of the torus, Torus, that our energy is moving in, it's a geometric shape. And from that place of being, we take ourselves into the white room. We're wearing very comfortable clothing. There is a window open with a curtain flowing in the breeze. And there's a door. We walk toward the door. We're in our bare feet. We open the door and step out onto a grassy space. To our left, there is a meadow full of wildflowers. It's a beautiful, beautiful sunny day. And we look ahead of us, and there is a pine forest with a path. We walk onto the path, and we feel the spongy pine needles underneath us. And as we move down the path, we can feel the sun on our skin, especially on our face and hands, as we move between the branches of the pine trees, and the sun filters its way through, touching us in various places. And then as we move through the shade and the sun and the shade and the sun, and just feel and smell the pine forest. Hear the birds. And a little bit of joy may begin to rise up because we are unencumbered as we walk down this forest path, feeling our own energy flowing. And we come around a bend in the path, and we can see the Annassa temple off in the distance. The temple is octagonal and covered with a dome. There are windows with drapes in them that are flowing in the breeze. We can feel the expansiveness of the temple waiting for us. And as we approach, we notice the brook in our path between us and the temple. And we take the opportunity to wash our feet and allow, as we step into the brook, allow any impurities or negativities to drain out our fingers and our feet into the water as it is all washed away by the waters of love. Just take a minute to let go of everything. And when you're ready, you step out of the brook on the other side, dry your feet on the grass. Sit down for a minute to gather yourself and feel your energy again. And when you're ready, you stand up and walk to the temple door. You step up one step and open the door and step into the room. There is a table in the center of a room, a treatment table. And you walk to that table and lie down on your back. You get comfortable. There are pillows if you need support anywhere in your body. If laying on your back is not comfortable for you, feel free to choose your side or your stomach, whatever is most comfortable for you. Allow yourself to relax deeply. And take your attention to your belly button. Allow yourself to receive pranic plasma with adamantine particles. Adamantine particles are the love meeting form. They are the particles of love that imbue vitality into anything they touch, anything and anyone. And you invite yourself to be completely permeated by pranic plasma and adamantine particles so that you become pure, raw love. And you allow this love to come into your belly and expand outward, informing every cell to the tips of your toes and every cell to the top of your head as you become pure, raw love. Take this in completely, as though your body has become a sponge that is being filled with love. And now you allow that love to expand to touch every life that is connected to yours. You don't need to visualize or independently identify anyone in particular. Just allow it to expand. And as it expands in the outer world, it knows where to go and what to do. And you can trust that. Just allow the love to flow completely into and through you as you become a vehicle for more and more love. Rest in that space for a few minutes in silence. Thank you so much for being here today. We have completely enjoyed this program.
We don't know if we have your program next week.
Oh, yeah, next week. I will be out of town, so there won't be a program. But there will be one the following week. So next Sunday, what date is it?
It is the August 1st.
Next Sunday, August 1st, no program. We'll be right back on schedule August 7th. So we will see you then. 8th. Sorry, 8th. We can't count. It's okay. So much love to you. Bye for now.